Alright, y'all, I got two things I want to say to y'all. It's raining out here, y'all. That ain't one of the things, but it is raining out here, y'all. But it's still about 80 degrees, but it's raining So, there was two things. Let me turn down this radio. Yeah, I ain't trying to hear them commercials and stuff. There was two things that came up in these last couple days for me that I ain't gonna say it struck a nerve, but it was one of them things where it was like, I've ran into the wrong people, probably giving their 2 cents about the wrong thing. So I'm all about talking to people that can relate to certain things. And I know that my story is very unique, and y'all gonna realize that once I start talking about court. But so the other day I put out a video, and it was me and my middle daughter talking. She was confused about some things. She had some things that were on her chest that she wanted to get off, and I was like, okay, this is a good time. There may be somebody who else, another young adult, that needs to hear what she's going through, so that my biggest thing be, I don't want people to feel as though they're alone in some of the things that they feeling. And it helps to know that you can cope with it the same way somebody else cope with it and come out of it. So I had a male call me regarding that video. And the male that called me has 2 male adult sons. And his opinion of the video is that I need to make my 18-year-old stop talking to her father. Now, I thanked him for watching the video. I respect him for wanting to reach out and give his opinion. But I had to ask him, she's 18, and she decided she didn't want to speak to me the rest of her life, and she went and got her own place, whatever the case may be. I can't make her want to talk to me, just like I can't make her stop talking to him. She reached out to him first. He was like, well, you shouldn't have let her reach out. And I'm listening to him, and I'm like, I think my biggest issue is that he's not experienced in raising teenagers in his house. He's lived in a whole nother state from his adult sons for a big chunk of their life. So to reach out and tell me to tell my daughter to stop having a relationship with her father, when at the least you're not experienced with having to deal with the other parent while the child lives in the house. Now, that's not to say that he shouldn't weigh in on something like that, but I think that telling a parent to tell their child to stop speaking to the other parent is unhealthy for the parent to say. Now, if she makes that as her choice, she's a young adult at this point. If she decides that she decided in a court that she didn't want to speak to him anymore, she took it upon herself to reach out to him for whatever reason. And we're going to talk about that as well, because I just had to have a talk with her, and I want you all to hear the talk. I want you all to understand what it was I had to say to her. But I had to explain to this friend of mine that I don't think that it's my place to tell her at the age of 18, you cannot have a relationship with your father, and then by her leaving and going to a whole nother state for college, think that that's really going to fly. Now, I'm not saying that my kids don't listen to my advice, and I gave my advice. What I gave her, and I ain't trying to block my blessings by telling my kid don't F with the ninja, but what I gave her was a regimen for when she should deal with him, considering his conversations come with a lot. He told me I was wrong for the regimen, and that my child would eventually start being affected and her grades would show it, and she'd be in another state, depressed and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, first of all, how the hell is you putting all that on my family? And second of all, why are you thinking so negative when, in my eyes, and y'all can hit me up in the comments to let me know, because in my eyes, what I try to do is not necessarily go into drill sergeant mode and tell my kids, this is what you're gonna do. I want my kids to learn how to think things through and make strategic decisions. Weigh your pros and cons. Maybe you should try this. Maybe you should try that. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? That's the way that I prefer to talk to my kids. But to jump in and be like, no, you can't F with your daddy ever again. How's she supposed to look at me after saying something like that? But I think what really threw me off is when he started handing me how my child is going to turn out if she talks to her father while she's going to be away at school. So y'all let me know what y'all, if y'all saw the video, y'all let me know what y'all thought as far as my advisement goes, because she understands he's a toxic person. And so what I had to give her yesterday, because what she's doing right now is perpetuating a cycle. And she didn't understand that that's what she was doing. I'm going under a tunnel, y'all. That's where I got dark. She's perpetuating a cycle right now. And by that, I mean, I had to explain to her, you know, your father abused you, not sexually, but physically and mentally and verbally. And I explained to her that, you know, my mom was in relationships where men put their hands on her. And so when I got with my middle daughter's father and he was doing this to me, there was one point where my mother basically told me, well, stop making them mad. And in that moment, I didn't look at her as condoning it. I looked at her as feeling as though sometimes you have to grit and bear things. That's just not something that's normal to grit and bear. But I think that's what she was trying to hand me in that moment. But if my mother went through domestic violence, I went through domestic violence, and here my child is going through domestic violence with her father, like I explained to her, you're doing what I did. I kept going back. And I asked her, what is it that keeps you going back to wanting this relationship? Because at some point we have to break this cycle. I said, now the way this will go is you'll get into a relationship and you'll be your father in that relationship. You'll carry the attitude that your father has, and you'll think that this is okay because this is how you and your father act. And now you're in a relationship where not only does this man feel as though he has to defend himself when you act like this, but now he's actually hitting you. And you're not going to see anything wrong with it, and you'll bounce in and out of that relationship as well. And then what happens when you finally decide to have kids? Because your child has been around you and the father, and y'all in and out of this domestic relationship, what'll end up happening is now the child is raised to think that, I said, this is how you create cycles that just keep going. You're at a point where you have to break this cycle. And I told her, I need to know what is causing you to go back. I told her, I said in the video, the previous video, how that worked for me. But I need to know. I told her mine was different because I didn't know my father, and I didn't know my biological father. And I wanted a real father in my life. I didn't have my mother. I wanted a parent, really, but I didn't have that authority figure as a father. I had my uncles, but my uncles had their own children and their own families, so they weren't 24/7 fathers for me. I mean, if I had a problem here and there, I may or may not decide to mention it to them because I'm not their child. But she couldn't really answer me. She really didn't have a reason as to why she keeps going back. And I explained to her, if you don't understand why you're going back, then you need to make a decision as to how you're going to move forward with this relationship. But I had to have that talk with her because every time she talks to her dad, he literally kicked her day off so horrible. And I got up early, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go get breakfast, because I had to work. I'm still remote working, so I had to work. I'm like, we're gonna go pick up some breakfast. Now normally it's me and the little one when we go get breakfast, and when me and the little one ride to go get breakfast, normally how it goes is that I'll play us some little music in the morning. She's in the back seat. We got the windows down. It's a little cooler in the morning than it is in the afternoon. We got the windows and everything down, and we get in our air. We get out the house first thing in the morning, get us some breakfast, get us some air. She's on the phone arguing. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, now he asked her, and I heard this part, which is why I felt the need at the end of the day to say something. He asked her, what you doing? And she like, on my way to go get some breakfast. You with your mama? She like, yeah. Can she hear me? She like, no, I got my headphones in. I'm listening to the conversation. So then he carries on this conversation about how much money he need her to pay for this used car that he's still trying to put together so that he can say he bought her a car and all this other stuff. And she's over here fuming. Now, mind you, this ain't how me and the little one kick our morning off. Our morning don't normally go like this. So it's bothering me now because you changing the atmosphere in the car early in the morning from us being thankful to me sitting here irritated at the fact that you letting this ninja now get on your nerves. So I had to say something to her at the end of the day, and she apologized. She was like, well, I wasn't trying to ruin you guys' morning. I didn't know that that's how your morning normally goes. And I told her flat out, your morning should go that way too. Even if you don't take a ride, go outside, get you some air, fix your cup of coffee, step outside for a second. Thank God that he woke you up this morning. But to start your day with that, I said, all you're doing is confirming the things that I've said to you about him. You're going to have to take dealing with him in stride. I said, you shifted. We were in the car and you shifted the atmosphere in the car. Like, who does that? So, I basically had to help her to understand this whole thing with this cycle that she was repeating now. Because she said, I didn't see it that way. You're not going to see it that way if you're in the cycle. Most of the time, you're not going to acknowledge that it was a cycle until you come full circle. So we had to talk about that. And I don't know what she walked away with, because again, I advised her and she still took his call that morning when he called. I don't know, maybe he blew her phone up and she don't answer. That I don't know. I hope he not, because he is a band. Y'all, B-A-N, he is a band, and he is the type that'll keep calling until you answer and then be somewhere talking about why the F you ain't answer the phone. That's what she working with. And I'm trying to get to that point where I'm ride out on him. Now here's the thing, he talked crazy about me. He even told her, and I had to tell her, you still being messy. That's another thing about cycles. Cycles can develop really bad habits, because when she was younger, what she would do is he would talk about me to her, and she would come home being young and tell me what her daddy done said about me, which would then make me mad. She's doing that right now. Since she rekindled this whole relationship with him, he's now talking about me again. She's realizing nothing has changed about him. He's now talking about me again to her. And she's coming back home and telling me. And I had to tell her, you're being messy about the whole thing, because he's talking about me to you. And then you coming home and telling me what he said. And all you doing is stirring up old feelings all over again. I done got over this ninja. I done got past what he did to me. I forgave him because I had to get over it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to move on with my life. So I'm over what he did. But now you done brought him back up into my house in a sense. Like, no. So I had to tell her, when you talk to him, you talk to him outside. Don't bring it up in my house. Flat out. That's that Willie Moe Jr. Flat out. But, yeah, I had to tell her. And I don't want to hear nothing else about what you all discussed. Leave me out of that relationship altogether. You rekindled that. You decided that's what you wanted to do. You have two separate relationships. You got a relationship between you and your daddy. You got a relationship with your mama. Neither one of them need to touch. You 18. That's the way I see that. When he called, if you going to answer that call, step outside. Don't answer that call in my house. And don't bring that spirit back up in my house when you get off that call. And I meant what I said. So yesterday evening, when the ninja called, guess who was outside in their road? I ain't got time. So, but we'll see. I'll keep y'all posted. We may have to have another critical conversation, because it seemed like the pot is steady stirring with these kids. I don't know if it's the pandemic. I'm gonna have to take them somewhere, y'all. I'm gonna have to find me a few coins and take my baby somewhere. That might be part of it. So yeah, but that's how that went. I had to help my daughter identify a cycle that she's in right now, that she was unaware that she was in. And I had to help her to identify habits that she developed while in that cycle that she's still practicing, which she didn't know. So she was a little softer today. I don't know how she feels, but she was just a little softer today than she was yesterday. So we'll see. And y'all know she a Gemini. I know y'all be thinking I be coming for her. She the only Gemini in the house, and she can go from crying to laughing to talking about you. Like, I don't even understand. Them too many heads up there. I don't even understand. So, the other thing that has me a little perturbed is this whole thing where there are discussions about students returning to school. And I'm going to tell y'all why it has me a little perturbed. I don't want nobody to think that I'm part of political gander or anything like that. I don't rock on the political side like that. But I do have a child in school, so I do have to maintain some level of being knowledgeable of the news that's going out every day. And I was watching The View, and Meghan McCain was saying that she agreed with the people that were saying that students should be in school because people are going out to restaurants and they're going out to stores, and that she doesn't understand why, if people can do all of these things, why their kids can't go back to school. And then you had I believe she's the Secretary of Education, who just by looking at her, you know she ain't got no kids in school. And I think what's sticking out the most to me is that we have too many people sharing their opinions of the return to school orders, but a lot of them don't have children in school. And my thought is, the biggest thing is practicing social distancing. So I saw on, there was a broadcast on, and they were saying that the new classroom going forward may have 5 to 8 desks in it. And you figure when you have 24 students in a classroom, and you can, let's just say you can fit 8 desks and actually social distance, that means that you basically have 2 sets of students that are left that still need to be taught. Now, are those students going to a different classroom? And if so, do you have another teacher? Now, I ain't heard nobody saying nothing about none of the schools being built out or anything. And I ain't heard nobody say there's a high demand for teachers at this point. So how do you work that? Then they were saying that, well, they can't sit with each other at lunch. They still have to practice social distance, and that they have to take away recess. Now, I got an entire 6-year-old in my house. And here's what I think people are skipping over. Number one, the school day gonna average 6 to 8 hours. And you asking, I'm just using my child as an example. You asking a first grader to wear a mask all day. Now you got adults complaining about having to wear a mask all day on the news. You got governors complaining that they can't breathe. And you're actually thinking that you're going to get first, second, third graders to sit in a mask for 6 to 8 hours. Then you basically want to tell them that they can't sit with their friends at lunch. Then you're telling them that they can't see their friends at recess. But they're going to sit for 6 to 8 hours with they're going to get some food, but you're going to sit for 6 to 8 hours with this mask on, and you're going to listen to what the teacher got to say. I'm trying to figure out what child is left to feel enthusiastic about school after you do that. Now, I'm not trying to say that I have the right answers, but the way that they sit here saying school is going to go for these children, I feel like you getting ready to ruin them and the teachers. Like, that's a setup for the teachers, if you ask me. Not to mention, I have to take into consideration, because Maz go to school and before and after care. And my issue with that is kids carry germs. Like when a cold flowed through my house, it was usually because her little germy butt brought it in. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe that you can train 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds to make sure that every time they leave the classroom, they come back in, they wash their hands. If you gotta sneeze, make sure that you're sneezing in your elbow. They got one time to put their hand up there when they sneeze up to that mask, because we all know all masks, it comes out to a certain amount of feet. So if they put their hand up there and sneeze into the mask, and it's looked at like, well, they sneeze into the mask. No, they actually have those particles on their hand. They finna go touch something. They've been doing it. They're gonna eat, they gonna wipe their mouth with the back of their hand. Some of them gonna come in with runny noses, and y'all gonna want to send them back home, because right now we in fear. I was in the grocery store and a man coughed twice, and everybody got out that line. Kid you not. And I'm laughing because I was one of them. I just, and I'm not saying everybody has the virus, but you are more alert to people spreading germs now than ever before. Now at work, it was different for me, because these people are wiping their nose and touching the top of my cubicle wall, because where my cubicle sits, it's like literally when you get off the elevator and come through the double doors, it's like when people come looking for somebody, they would stop at my desk. So the wall to my cubicle was where people would rest their hands and everything. And so you would have certain people that you're looking at, and you're knowing that when they come over there, they're going to wipe their nose and touch your desk and everything. So the minute they will walk off, I'm spraying Lysol and wiping with Clorox wipes, because I know somebody else finna come over with their hand. It was so disgusting, y'all. But now it's like where I would normally see somebody cough or sneeze in the grocery store, I'd just be like, ooh, let me not go by that person. Now I'm avoiding the aisle they was just in. If I needed bread, we won't be getting it up out of here. So for real, y'all. So I can't help but to think of the germs that kids carry and how this is supposed to work with these kids going to school and what they getting ready to bring home. Not to mention, we finna be hitting up flu season. Like, I'm uncomfortable with my child going and being around other kids, and I know that kids her age are thinking about having fun. They're not thinking about containing germs. They're not thinking about staying to themselves. They're not thinking about washing their hands 50 million times. They're not thinking about going to get the sanitizer that's sitting at the door by the classroom. And half of them are going to be sitting there trying to pull that mask down because they're uncomfortable with sitting there having to wear it all day. So to a certain degree, it's not even to a certain degree, I'm uncomfortable with my child sitting in that setting. I feel like there's mentally she would suffer mentally, because one of the biggest things she's already saying that she misses in school is being with her friends. She like, I don't get to play with my friends at recess. We don't get to sit together at lunch. And I joked with her. I was like, well, you get to have lunch with us every day. And she was like, yeah. So I can't even get mad at her honesty. Sometimes I think that she don't understand that her honesty is like way up there. She got to bring it down a notch or two when she talks to people. But I'll teach her that. She don't have a filter. Her father brought her home. He was like, hey, you don't talk to her when she just kind of... I said, oh, she talked about you? He was like, man. I'm like, yeah, we're working on it. So, but yeah, that's how I feel about that. It's, if you don't necessarily have to worry about that child that may potentially have a problem with school because of what they're now lacking in school, or the fact that they could possibly be bringing home germs from other people. I mean, a big part of this is you don't know who anybody else inside of their house is interacting with that came from another house. Like, she may just have, she has like 4 friends that like she would talk to. I would pick her up from school and she like, all right, y'all. And then get in the car and be like, hey, mom. So it's like, you got those 4 friends, but then I don't know who's in their house, where they work. I don't know who's coming to their house on the weekend to kick it. Like, you don't know who they're coming into contact with. And I mean, look at what just happened to D.L. Hughley. You got people walking around here who don't show symptoms, and you can pass that along. That is scary for me as a parent. That is the scariest thing. But what I will say I have been doing, and I encourage other parents to do this. What I will say I have been doing is I have been making sure that part of her daily activities is still some level of schoolwork. And I'm doing that because the end of the year ended abruptly, but it also ended with spot learning. Like, you didn't get the full lesson. You got some things here and there as far as e-learning and things like that go, but it wasn't a full-fledged learning for that last quarter. So for me, I need to work to ensure that she understands what she needed to know at the end of the year, and I'm trying to incorporate some of the things that she needs to know for first grade. So there are a number of websites I've been digging into. I'm going to give you guys one in case you guys have someone that's younger at home and they need to learn this. One of the people that that she's been learning from, and it's big on YouTube, is Jack Hartman. All you gotta do is go to YouTube and search him. And he teaches counting. He teaches counting money. He teaches adding. He teaches letters. He teaches the letters that go together. He teaches making a sentence. He teaches all this, and he does it through all these songs and dancing and everything. And even though I told her the other day, I'm like, just watch the videos where you're counting past 100, and then watch the other video where he's teaching you the difference between the long vowel and the short vowel. And she was like, okay, mommy. And I came back in there, and she was like, this is the 4th video. And I'm like, no, you were just supposed to watch the first 2. And she was like, no, but it's okay. And I just let her go because she was enjoying it. So that is a big one in my house at this point. I know some of y'all pull up these YouTube videos, and that's what these kids are watching these days. Just squeeze in some of the ones where they could possibly be helping them to get to that next level, because some of them we've been it's been like this since March. They missed a lot between March and June, y'all. So just push them back just a little bit and make sure that they get what they needed to get before they do go on to the next grade. Because right now, nobody really knows what this is supposed to look at. We taking surveys and everything else to figure out how this should go. And I know I'm not the only parent that's concerned, number one, about how my child is going to look at school in a different way if now she's going and she's sitting for 6 to 8 hours with a mask on. She can't eat with her friends. She can't have recess with her friends. To a certain degree, I feel like I think that's an illness. Restless child syndrome. I'm gonna have to Google it, y'all. I want to make sure I ain't giving y'all the wrong thing. It's something along those lines. Before y'all say, that ain't no such thing as that. It's something along them lines. Figure out what it is. I think that's what it's called. But I don't want my baby suffering from that. And I don't want her being subjected to other kids who may be carrying it, who don't know that they carrying it because they got it from somebody that didn't know they was carrying it. So that's all I'm saying, y'all. So let me know y'all thoughts about the beginning of the video when I talked about the person and how they felt as though my daughter should cut off all communication. I should make my daughter cut off all communication with her father. And how you guys actually feel about your students going back to school. I know some college students are going back, but it's a little different because they're a little older. When you're dealing with elementary students, it's a little harder to control all of them. So just let me know y'all thoughts. I hope y'all enjoyed. I done got to my destination, so I'm gonna give me something to eat. I'm starving. Until I go to the grocery store. I need to go to the grocery store for real, y'all. But I just told y'all how I feel about going in the grocery store. I'm so uncomfortable. I know I ain't the only one that be in the grocery store lurking. I'm for real, y'all. I be in the grocery store around the aisle like, did she just cough? My kids be so mad at me. I don't want to walk into that. Them particles in there, I don't want to walk into it. And I've had walking pneumonia 4 times. I had pneumonia, then I had walking pneumonia 4 times while I was bartending because I was on a hustle. It was like I coughed, my chest hurt. I took some Mucidex or some Tylenol or Theraflu, and I kept it moving. Because I got to go make this money. That's how hard I was hustling. I go to the hospital and they're like, you got walking pneumonia. Can you give me an antibiotic for that? And I was on my way. So no, I don't want that. Plus, I'm RH negative. Y'all gonna have to look that one up. I'm RH negative, y'all. And it's not a good thing. I think they say like 15% of the world is RH negative. It came out when I got pregnant with my first daughter that I was RH negative. I was so high risk, it was crazy. And then I have a rare blood type. I'm O negative. And I have chronic anemia. And some of y'all on here who did nursing, y'all gonna kill me. So my hemoglobin does not get above an 8.25. I used to pass out a lot as a kid, and it started back up again when I was pregnant with my middle daughter. And I would pass out, but I knew I was finna pass out. It was crazy. I don't know if anybody ever went through that, but you knew when you were getting ready to pass out. Like, I would get the sweating, I would get the blinking, because I started seeing what they call floaties. It looked like staticky TV. And I would have to pull over and literally let the seat back because I knew I was finna pass out, and I'd be out for like 2 hours. So I went through a series of MRIs for it and everything. Y'all don't go into panic mode or anything. I went through a series of MRIs and everything for it. They gave me sleep tests and everything, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. But they kept saying it has to be attributed to your hemoglobin. So it don't get past an 8.25. I think if it got past an 8.25, I promise y'all, I'd be like, y'all seen that GIF of Forrest Gump where he running real fast? That would be me if my hemoglobin got past 8.25, y'all. That's crazy. All right, I'm finna go in here so I can put something on my stomach, y'all. I'll see y'all next video. Bye.